Am I the bad guy for wearing a tank top around teenage boys? I recently found myself in a bit of a pickle as a new stepmom. At 41 years old, I married my husband at 37, and suddenly I was living with 3 kids, including a 13-year-old daughter. It was a whole new world for me. One Saturday, after a long day of house chores, I was feeling a bit sweaty and gross, but decided to wear a tank top and leggings while introducing myself to my stepdaughter's friends. I thought, hey, it's just me being casual. But little did I know, my stepdaughter had a different perspective. The next day, she told me that she felt I was dressed inappropriately around her friends. She even showed me a message from one of her friends who called me smoking hot. I was taken aback because I certainly don't see myself that way. My stepdaughter expressed that it made her uncomfortable, especially since she had a crush on that boy. I mean, talk about awkward. When I brought this up with my husband, he was unsure if my outfit was appropriate. He mentioned that teenage boys can be a bit, well, hormonal and unpredictable. So I found myself questioning if I had crossed some invisible line. After reflecting on the situation, I realized that while I wasn't at fault for wearing what I thought was normal attire, I wanted to respect my stepdaughter's feelings. I decided to switch to wearing sweaters and shirts with jackets when her friends were around, even though it meant I'd be sweating more. It felt a bit strange, but I wanted her to feel comfortable. We had a heart-to-heart, and I explained to her that girls and women shouldn't blame themselves for the actions of boys. I wanted her to know that my outfit choice wasn't wrong. It was all about making her feel more at ease. She seemed to appreciate my efforts, and by the end of our talk, she was in good spirits. A few days later, I checked in with her again. She had moved on from her crush and was dating someone else, which was a relief. She even mentioned that she didn't want to ask her new boyfriend what he thought of me, which I totally understood. In the end, I learned that navigating stepmom life comes with its own set of challenges, especially when teenage crushes are involved. I'm glad I could support my stepdaughter while also embracing my own style. Who knew a tank top could stir up so much drama? But hey, that's family life for you. My F28 boyfriend, M33, says he's disgusted by my body hair, and I have to laser remove it and pay for it, or else he'll leave me. He says I want to share a story that has been weighing heavily on my heart. It revolves around my relationship with my boyfriend, who is 33 years old, while I'm 28. We've been together for about 14 months, and recently, things took a turn that left me questioning everything. A few days ago, my boyfriend confessed something that shocked me. He expressed that he was disgusted by my body hair and insisted that I needed to undergo laser hair removal on my forearms, private area, and legs. At first, I was taken aback. I've always accepted my body as it is, and to be honest, I don't have excessive body hair. My forearm hair is barely noticeable, it's just a hint of blonde. I wax my legs regularly and groom my private area as needed. I thought we were on the same page about body positivity, but clearly I was mistaken. When he elaborated on his feelings, saying that he felt physically repulsed by my hair, and even gagged at the thought of touching it, I thought he might be joking. But he was dead serious. I suggested a compromise. I could bleach my forearm hair, which would make it practically invisible. But even that wasn't enough for him. He insisted that I needed to get it permanently removed, and he was adamant that I should pay for it myself. This was where I started to feel uneasy. I didn't see laser hair removal as an upgrade or improvement. It felt more like an ultimatum. I told him that while I was open to discussing the possibility of laser treatment for my legs, I wasn't comfortable with the idea of permanently altering my body in such a significant way, especially when it came to my private area. I suggested that if he wanted me to undergo such a procedure, it was only fair that he contribute financially, but he flatly refused. He argued that since it would be a permanent change for me, I should bear the cost. His comments struck a nerve. I felt offended and pressured to change something about myself that neither he nor I had previously considered a problem. It was as if he was giving me an ultimatum. Either I conformed to his wishes, or he would leave me. He claimed that if I wasn't willing to make this sacrifice for him, what else would I be unwilling to sacrifice in the future? It felt controlling, and I began to question whether this was the kind of relationship I wanted to be in. Over the next few days, he continued to bombard me with messages, sending me quotes from various laser hair removal salons, and urging me to make a decision. He insisted that I was the love of his life, but that I needed to learn to budge to make our relationship work. This constant pressure made me rethink everything. Was this really love, or was it manipulation? After confiding in my family, particularly my mom and brothers, I realized I needed to take a step back. They were incredibly supportive, and one of my brothers even offered me a place to stay. I decided to leave my boyfriend. It was a tough decision, but I knew it was the right one for my well-being. I spent the day packing my things, which didn't take long since I lived in a small studio apartment. With my brother's help, I arranged to move in with my brother in another city. I took some personal days off work to focus on this transition. It was a whirlwind of emotions, but as I packed up my belongings, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I was reclaiming my autonomy and choosing to prioritize my happiness over someone else's unrealistic demands. In the end, I learned that true love doesn't come with ultimatums or conditions. It's about acceptance and support, not control. I'm looking forward to this new chapter in my life, one where I can embrace my body as it is and surround myself with people who love me for who I am, not who they want me to be. I found myself in a situation that I never thought I would be in. My boyfriend, who is 7 years older than me, expressed his disgust over my body hair. He made it clear that if I didn't undergo laser hair removal, he would consider leaving me. He claims that I wasn't taking his happiness into account, and suggested that if I couldn't make this sacrifice, what else would I refuse to compromise on in the future? At first, I felt trapped. I loved him and wanted to make him happy, but something didn't sit right with me. I started to think about what it meant to sacrifice my comfort and my body for someone else's preferences. It was a moment of clarity that I desperately needed. In a moment of desperation, I texted my ex and told him I would go ahead with the laser treatment because I loved him and was willing to do anything for him. I scheduled an appointment at a local clinic, but I knew that after the first session, my skin would be irritated. I planned to rest for the day and told him I wouldn't be able to meet him afterward. Instead, I invited him over for a date on Friday night, promising to show him my hair-free self. But deep down, I was plotting my escape. I didn't want him to know that I was moving out until I was physically gone. I spoke to my landlady about my situation, explaining that I needed to leave due to my ex's controlling behavior. She was understanding and even offered to change the locks to ensure my safety, which was a huge relief. As the days went by, I realized that I needed to break free from this toxic relationship. I initially thought about confronting him in person, but I decided it would be safer to do it over the phone once I was settled in my new place. I wanted to send him a clear message without causing unnecessary drama. Finally, I moved out and sent him a text, linking him to a thread that detailed my experience. I told him I was laser removing him from my life because I shouldn't have to sacrifice my comfort for anyone. I expressed how his unhealthy attitude towards women's bodies was unacceptable and that I wouldn't allow anyone to pressure me into doing something I wasn't comfortable with. To my surprise, he responded with a video from a different number, crying and claiming that I was ruining his life. He insisted he only wanted the best for me and had great plans for our future. I deleted the video without a second thought. When he continued to reach out, my brother stepped in and warned him to leave me alone, threatening to involve the authorities if he didn't stop. Thankfully, he finally ceased his attempts to contact me. The first day after our breakup was tough. I cried and felt the weight of the situation. But as time passed, I began to realize that no one who treated me that way deserved my tears. I moved in with my brother in a new city, and having my puppy by my side helped me heal. I started reconnecting with friends, and soon enough, I was out enjoying tacos and dancing, embracing life again. Looking back, I'm grateful for the support I received from friends and strangers alike. It reminded me that I deserve to be in a relationship where my feelings and comfort are valued. I learned that true love doesn't come with ultimatums, and I'm ready to embrace a future filled with self-love and respect. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this journey. Life goes on, and I'm excited to see where it takes me next.
Am I the bad guy for calling out my boyfriend's female friend in front of everyone after he kept telling me to ignore it? I've been dating my boyfriend for almost a year now, and early on, I met his friend group, which mostly consists of men from his former workplace. Everyone was friendly, except for one person, his only female friend. Right from the start, she struck me as unpleasant. The first time I heard about her, my boyfriend read me a message she sent, offering to gift him one of her paintings for his living room. However, she added that she'd only do it if I wasn't an artist, implying that I should paint it instead. It felt like she was trying to compete with me for his attention. After a difficult conversation about her, I insisted on attending a party he was hosting to see for myself if her behavior was as bad as I thought. The moment she arrived, she greeted me but immediately began trash-talking another guy's new girlfriend. I found that really troubling, especially since none of the men intervened. She only stopped when the guy whose girlfriend she was criticizing showed up. Throughout the night, she made several comments that left me feeling uncomfortable. I stood quietly near the food table, and she remarked how she could never be the type of girl who just quietly stands next to a table, which felt unnecessary and rude. At one point, I stepped into another room, and my boyfriend followed to check on me. I expressed my discomfort with her behavior, but he brushed it off, saying she was just joking. The last straw came when I overheard her whisper something right after I left the living room. When I confronted my boyfriend about it, he insisted it was nothing, saying she had only asked if he was happy with me. That made me feel insecure, and I believed it was his responsibility to set boundaries with her, not mine as the newcomer in his group. He kept telling me to ignore her, but I made it clear that I wouldn't let anyone humiliate me. Months later, my boyfriend mentioned that the other girlfriend, the one the female friend had insulted, also had issues with her and labeled her a pick-me type. That made me feel validated, as it seemed he finally understood why I was uncomfortable. Then came his birthday. The night before the celebration, he suggested I might not want to attend, which offended me. I had already taken time off work and prepared a lot of food, including cake and 5 pizzas. It felt like he wanted to hide me from his friends rather than address the disrespectful behavior. After some back and forth, he apologized, and we agreed I should come to the party. Before she arrived, she asked him for mulled wine, and I told him that after all the work I had done, she could either make it herself or he could handle it. The party started off well, with everyone praising my cooking. However, she made a dismissive comment about the women who like to cook, and later suggested she should get married so none of her guy friends would have problems with their girlfriends anymore. After a few drinks, I finally snapped. I entered the conversation and told her, rather harshly, that I had a problem with her behavior. I recounted the painting comment, the trash talking, and how it felt like she was testing me. During that confrontation, I learned she had been saying nice things about me to my boyfriend, which made me question why he hadn't set boundaries sooner. The whole situation was humiliating, especially since it unfolded in front of her friends, not mine. She ended up leaving upset and in tears. Afterward, I asked my boyfriend if he was texting her, and his response was, "What do you care?" That comment hurt me deeply. The next morning, he told me I had ruined his friendship with her and accused me of lacking empathy. He claimed he didn't understand what the problem was and that addressing it would be unpleasant for him. This made me feel like he had only been agreeing with me to keep the peace, without truly considering my feelings. I sent her a long apology message explaining why I reacted the way I did and expressing hope for a calm resolution. She didn't reply. Following my boyfriend's reaction, I decided to take my things from his apartment because I felt there was no empathy for me, only expectations that I should show empathy toward her. We agreed to pause the conversation for a few days to cool off, but I'm left wondering how to fix this. I feel he avoided setting boundaries and allowed the situation to escalate, and now he's placing all the blame on me. At the same time, I regret not taking the high road and ignoring her comments instead of creating a scene at his birthday. I found myself in a pretty uncomfortable situation recently, and I'm still trying to figure out if I handled it the right way. My boyfriend has a female friend who has a habit of crossing boundaries, and it's been bothering me for a while. Whenever we're all together, she tends to make comments that feel a bit too personal or flirty, and I've brought it up to my boyfriend before. I thought he would understand my concerns, but instead, he kept telling me to just ignore it. He insisted that she didn't mean anything by it and that I was overreacting. I tried to brush it off, but the more he dismissed my feelings, the more frustrated I became. One evening, we were at a gathering with friends when she made another one of her comments, this time right in front of everyone. I could feel my face getting hot, and I just snapped. I called her out in front of everyone, saying that her comments were inappropriate and that it wasn't okay to make me feel uncomfortable. The room went silent, and I could see my boyfriend's face turn red with embarrassment. He quickly tried to defuse the situation by telling me to calm down and that I was making a big deal out of nothing, but I felt like I had to stand up for myself. Afterward, my boyfriend was upset with me for confronting her publicly. He said I should have handled it privately instead of making a scene. I argued that I had tried to address it before and nothing changed. I felt like I had no other choice but to speak up in the moment. Now, I'm left wondering if I overstepped by calling her out in front of everyone. Was I wrong for standing up for myself, or should I have just kept quiet and let it go?
Am I the bad guy for unleashing years of resentment on my husband over dinner? I've been married for a while now, and while my husband and I have made significant progress in our marriage therapy, there are still some underlying issues that keep bubbling to the surface. We have 4 kids in total, 2 from my previous relationship, 1 from his, and 1 together. Most of the time, we manage the chaos. but there's one recurring problem that really gets under my skin. My husband's tendency to make unilateral decisions that affect our whole family without any discussion. For instance, he often decides to declutter our home, which sounds reasonable until you realize he's tossing out things we love without asking. He's also taken it upon himself to dictate our eating habits, banning foods he deems unhealthy, even though the kids and I enjoy them. And let's not forget the time he decided to limit our screen time just because he felt it was necessary. These changes come out of nowhere and usually last a week or two before he loses interest, but the impact lingers. The last major incident occurred about a year ago when he threw out my essential oils and candles, claiming they weren't good for us. That led to a huge fight and ultimately prompted us to start therapy, which has helped, but some things still trigger me. Recently, I fell ill with the flu, and my husband offered to pick up dinner on his way home from work. I was grateful, but when he walked in with salmon, cauliflower rice, and Brussels sprouts, I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. Our daughter, who is autistic, wouldn't touch any of it, and neither would the other kids or I. We all despise salmon, and he knows this. When I expressed my concerns, he brushed them off, insisting we could get over it for one night, because it was time for us to eat healthier. That was the breaking point for me. I exploded, reminding him of how he always forces his latest health kick on us, without considering our preferences. I told him to make his own dinner, and in a moment of anger, said something I regretted. I stormed out to the store and bought something the kids would actually eat, still keeping it healthy, but avoiding salmon altogether. When I returned home, he was sitting silently on the couch, looking defeated. He accused me of making problems out of nothing and said he was at the end of his rope with me. I told him to bring it up in therapy because I wasn't going to engage while I was sick and had to make an unnecessary trip to the store just to cook for the kids. Since then, there's been nothing but silence between us. So was I in the wrong for unleashing years of pent-up frustration over dinner?